What up, infidels? Another week, another brown. We're back. We've been talking a lot about manifesting, and I said this on the podcast earlier that I was gonna get Duncan Trussell to talk about boredom. First guest that was my mom, and we got Duncan Trussell.
Hi.
Thank you for doing this, Duncan.
Oh
I
man, I'm
appreciate
so
it.
happy to be here. Sorry I'm late.
No,
I
it's
was
fine.
late.
they don't know that. We also fly by the seat of our pants here.
Okay,
so
cool.
yeah,
Beautiful.
they're absolutely aware. But yeah, the reason why I wanted to bring you on is that we were in the green room and you had just said it. You're like, I remember how you said it. You went like, so answer this: what is boredom?
Yeah.
Right. How do you even get to a question like that?
I have a meditation teacher,
Mhm.
David Nickturn, who was a student of a Tibetan Buddhist teacher called Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche.
Okay.
And so I did not come up with what is boredom, but
Okay.
I was just having a conversation with him. And I think I was telling him how boring I think meditation is. And he said, "What is boredom?" And I realized I'd never thought about the experience that so many people, me included, are trying to get away from. Like, what is it? What is it really? Because it's not like the classic emotions:
No.
sadness, anger, love, happiness. What is it?
It's almost something that you don't even think about. It's just like, oh, I feel bored. Let me try to get away from it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's never once been something I've been asked to define. And I think I've been asking people this too, and most people get stuck after a second. They're like, what?
What is it?
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah.
That's what I mean, it blew my mind in the green room. It's just like I've never even begun to thought about what that is and like why we even feel that way.
It's like the pebble
Mhm.
in the shoe of capitalism. It's because if you think about like so much of life and so much of things being sold to us is all about escaping or evading boredom. Boredom is a low state. Like if you're
Right.
bored, generally the implication is something's going wrong in your life.
Something's bad. It's
You're
not
missing something.
Yes, it's never good. It's never like I'm good bored.
No, well, exactly. It's always horrific and agonizing for people, and they really don't like spending any amount of time in that space. So, I mean, if we weren't afraid of boredom, I don't think that social media would have the stranglehold on culture that it currently has, because social media, it's like the perfect way. It's like a fire extinguisher for boredom.
It's like an instant fix. You get to immediately go on and scroll. Just even doing that is something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, social media, video games, eating, going out with your friends, anything, sleeping, anything but that moment where you find yourself with nothing to do.
Yeah. So what would you describe that moment as?
Well, I mean, my feeling is that boredom is another name for suffering. It's like an underlying suffering that all of us are contending with, and that because we haven't really identified that, we name it something that makes it sound a little less sinister or intense. It's a little more lighthearted to be like, I'm bored.
Right.
And to be like, I'm suffering. I have general discontent. I'm generally dissatisfied with reality as it is. So to fix that, I have to like distract my mind so that I can never feel this experience of suffering.
Damn. So would you think that? Okay, I'm gonna say this and tell me if not. You think this is a right thing to say? Is that the sort of base human mode is suffering then?
No.
No.
Thank
Okay.
God, no. I mean, the base human mode is actually joy, I think. But because there's a general confusion in how to like mitigate suffering, the base human experience is suffering, because it's like your back itches,
Okay.
right? And so to fix the way that your back is feeling, you scratch your leg. Your back is not going to stop itching. You might get distracted because now you're scratching your leg, but the itch in your back, you've done nothing to fix that problem. And so in Buddhism, at least as I understand it, which could be completely wrong,
Right.
the general idea is that, we have this basic experience of suffering that is 100% related to a misapprehension of reality itself. So of course you're suffering because you've become confused into thinking that the boredom you're feeling is being caused by something or a lack of something. You don't understand. It's like, no, it's there all the time.
Right.
But you are turning up the radio, so to speak, to drown it out. I mean, in this case, the radio is whatever you do when you're bored.
Right.
And so that's not going to fix it. That's just going to drown it out. And so the idea is like the idea to fix it is you need to sort of gain a familiarity with it. You need to start like experiencing it.
So there's something there's an itch on your back. There's something that's not right in your life, and you feel bored, and then you don't address it. Is that what it is? Is that what you're just kind of?
Yeah.
So boredom is like, this is what's really wrong, and let me try to fill something so I don't have to address what's going on with me.
Well, it's the human experience
Okay.
is sort of fundamentally insecure in that we're mortal and everything around us is changing. So this is a very insecure situation to find yourself in.
Right.
If you have some interest in maintaining your body or your life, or you don't want your friends to die, or you don't want to die. So this is a pretty difficult situation to find oneself in.
It's hard. It's very hard. It's a hard video game.
It's a hard game. You're playing it on hard. You only get one life, and also the reality of death is that everyone thinks they're going to live to their lifespan. This is come on. Do you really think that? Like you might, but the older you get, the more your mind begins to disintegrate because you and everything else is changing. So your body is slowly collapsing. You can't see it, but people around you do. Like God, have you ever gone to a high school reunion?
No. My 10-year reunion was during COVID, so I never got to go.
Okay.
Right.
Man, though that will fuck you up. Because you will go there, and the first thing you'll think is like, damn, everybody got old. It's like, you did too, motherfucker. Yeah. You've just been looking in the mirror, and it's the slow change.
Right.
You've gotten used to the way you look. Right. But somebody who remembers you as like a 15-year-old is going to be like,
oh, shit.
Holy shit.
Damn.
You look like you've been staring into the Necronomicon or something, man. Yeah. Your hair's falling out. Your beard's turning gray.
Gut.
So your gut, you got a fucking gut, bags under your eyes, and you're like some anxiety disorder from, so many disappointments or whatever. And so this is an insecure situation to find yourself in.
Right.
And without dealing with that in reality, that we are in a very topsy-turvy situation, which in Buddhism is called dukkha. And so that one translation of that is like wobbly wheel, or like if you're on a bike and you don't have enough air in a tire, you're not going to have a great bike ride. Every rock that you hit is going to hurt. So dukkha, this is the situation which we're in, which is a very wobbly sort of situation.
We're on a bike with a flat tire.
Bike with a flat tire. Things don't really work out. Like, the one example that everyone can relate to is like traffic.
Okay.
You've been taking the same commute every day for a year. But somehow, every time you pull out on the interstate, you're like, fuck, look at all this fucking traffic. You know what I mean? It's like as though
it wasn't happening every day before that. Yeah.
Exactly. But because you have somehow managed to delude yourself into this fantasy that there's not going to be traffic today, you set yourself up every day for this adrenaline spike when reality as it is versus reality as you want it to be takes place.
Right.
Suffering, that's suffering. You've become attached to a fantasy, and that attachment is like causing you never-ending suffering. Whereas if you surrender to reality as it is, what is there to suffer about? There's always traffic.
There's always, so why be angry about it?
You can't do anything about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But even in that sense, that attachment to the fantasy, that adrenaline rush is so like, is it that like you just want to feel something so big that you are attached to this fantasy, and sort of like, well, if I just submit myself to this, then there's nothing to feel.
Well, right. Yeah, that's it. That's brilliant. Yeah, that's a great analysis, man.
Right.
It's like humans want to be something. We are something. We have a body, we have our thoughts, we have our sense precepts, we have an experience of something. But also, there's this lack of continuity in the experience. So, for example, every night you lay down and disappear for however many hours you successful sleep.
Right.
You're gone. Where were you?
Right.
You wake up and there's a you,
right.
but there's a chunk of time in between there. Where were you? Or another example would be you're looking for your keys. You can't find them. Where were you when you lost your keys? Were you there? Or think back 3 days ago, and most people can't remember what they had for lunch. Some people can't remember what they had for lunch yesterday.
Right.
Where were you when you were eating your lunch? Well, you weren't there in the way that you might as well have not been there. And also, neurologically, we don't really have there's no past, but neurologically we encode memories that we pick out. So during those times where we are there and something's happening,
we'll choose to remember something.
We'll remember that, and then we sort of weave a story together from those imprints that we call our past. So this gives us a sense of there's something before here, which there isn't. And then we create a simulation of what we imagine is coming.
Right.
And this produces a sense of a future, which obviously there isn't.
Right.
So really, we're doing a lot of processing to create the illusion of there being some continuous cohesive self. Yeah.
Right.
And that's a lot of work. And also because at some level you must know that really isn't the case.
Right.
You have to deal with this situation of somehow being seemingly a thing, yet somehow being just nothing at all.
Yeah.
And so because the nothing at all part is very difficult to contend with, people put a lot of energy into being a thing. Instantiating oneself into time via the looping patterns of behavior that you identify. Well, this must be me.
This is who I am. And then social media plays a big part in that, because then you can effectively try to mold what that thing is and constantly work on what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, you could crystallize this thing you digitize yourself.
Right.
And now for sure I've got a form.
This is who I am.
Look, here it is. I see a picture of myself. It's something I did in the past.
I got X amount of followers too, and if I do this, I gain more followers. That means I have worth as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So there you are, crystallizing yourself and seeing all your friends crystallized in this like seemingly cohesive, coherent form, which is total bullshit. You don't see like in between. You don't see your friend having a nervous breakdown in the bathroom when they wake up in the morning and feel lonelier than they've ever felt in their life. You don't see that glowing couple that seems so full of joy and they've really figured their marriage out, throwing cups across the kitchen or whatever. So that is also not true, probably. It's also a dreamy, sort of non-real thing.
It's definitely not real.
Not real.
It's definitely not real.
Not real.
Yeah, especially because what's weird about a lot of times about social media is like if I'll post something, all of a sudden my worth feels like it's being dictated by the likes and the reacts and the.
Oh my God! What a rush!
And then I feel that time where I was previously doing nothing to watching how it's going.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. You're sort of getting these little tokens that you are putting in some trophy room in your brain that you stack up to indicate success or lack of success or something like that.
Or just worth.
Value. Yeah. It's some bullshit like value thing that is, but all of this stuff, it makes sense, and we all do it. We all do it. But if you sort of notice the way you feel, or at least the way I feel, when I'm in a social media hypnosis, it doesn't feel that good.
No.
Right? Like it feels there's an itchy quality to it. There's a lot of anxiety. There's also a kind of anesthetized sense. You feel kind of shut down. And then when you put the phone down, finally, at least for me, there's a bleary kind of like fuzzy feeling, like almost like coming off of a drug or something. So it's just more suffering.
Right.
And so, yeah, the idea is maybe there's a way to work with your suffering that doesn't make sense the way we work with other things that we don't want to experience, like fire, for example.
Right. Okay.
You never hear someone say, if you don't want to get burnt, shove your hand in a fire.
Right.
That would be bad advice.
Right. But for whatever reason, to alleviate boredom, we go and do this. We scroll and we come out of it and we still don't feel good. Like we compound it with our burn with fire.
We run away from it.
Right.
So the idea is, in this case, this kind of fire, the suffering fire, the invitation is, let's see what happens if we sit with it and watch it non-judgmentally. What happens if you just sit with that thing you've been avoiding forever?
Right.
Let's at least get some familiarity with the fucking thing, right? Like,
Right.
What is it? Is it one thing? Is it multiple things? Does it change as you sit with it? Where is it in your body? That's a really important question. Where is that feeling in your body? And then does it shift in your body? Is it there all the time? When it's not there, what is there? And so it's a sort of self-interrogation, I guess you could say.
So that's what you would say meditation is? It's like a self-interrogation?
Well, yes, that is definitely, a familiarization is a way to put it. Like, you're just getting familiar with yourself.
Okay.
Because, like, if I'm spending, which I do, all day long, busily taking care of my shit, doing my job, taking care of my kids, looking at my phone, trying to, like, relax, have some fun, play Diablo fucking 4, doom scroll. If I'm doing all this, then I'm not paying attention to my body. So a lot of people don't even know how their body feels. A lot of people have not felt the way it feels to have bare feet on the floor. They haven't felt their feet touching the floor for years because they're so distracted they don't feel it.
Right.
So you just sitting still and sort of scanning your body.
Right.
What's going on with this fucking thing?
Right.
You start noticing shit. Oh, damn, my shoulders are tight. Oh, look at the way I'm holding my shoulders. Why do I hold my shoulder? I don't need to hold my shoulders like that. I don't need to be like all fucking rigid and tight.
Right.
Or you might notice you're slumping forward. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, fuck, I'm tired. And then you notice like the connection between posture and the way the energy is moving through your body. Yeah, because like if I'm meditating and I'm slouching, I'll fall asleep.
Right.
If I'm meditating and get all like tight, then I get into this weird hypnotic state. So just this like process of like, for a second, just see what happens if you sit still and allow yourself to just be.
Right.
And then, of course, the other thing you begin to notice is how fucking crazy your mind is. Just the way how quickly you'll go from being in the moment to having like a long conversation with someone you're annoyed with, getting in an imaginary argument with people you have disagreements with, worrying over bills, taxes, rent, caught by your mind.
Right.
And so this is, the idea here is not to then be like, wow, I guess I'm fucking crazy and my shoulders are tight and I slouch or whatever. The idea here is, oh, wow, this is how I always am.
Right.
But this is what's underneath the static of distraction that I'm filling my life up with. So something about the process of just being yourself as you are, minus distraction, over time, it begins to slightly, at least for me, slightly dissipate the intensity that goes along with trying to crystallize yourself into a something.
Right.
Because you realize I can watch my thoughts, I can watch my body, I'm watching this experience happen. but who's watching?
Right.
What is it all happening inside of? Because my thoughts, since I can watch them, even though they're clearly in my mind, thank God, no one is hearing our thoughts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're just, what's the difference between them and anything in your external reality that you look at and you're like, I'm not that wall, I'm not that chair, I'm not the microphone, right?
Right.
I'm not any of those things, even though you are, because that's the other crazy aspect of this is everything is you. Yeah.
Everything is you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also like that is such a crazy thing to think that everything is a part of everything and it's all like intermingling with each other and we're the famous quote, we're the universe experiencing itself. That's a wild thing. So like this is something that I have thought about since we've talked about it. Like the most fulfilling parts of my life and the most parts where I is when those moments, even from when I was a kid, where I was just truly in the moment.
Yeah.
Enjoying my time with family, enjoying my time with friends, really enjoying the movie that I'm watching.
Yeah.
So why do you think there is this barrier that we'll call boredom between like living in your head and living truly in the moment? Like why for whatever reason, if this is the most fulfilling thing, why is there this blockade? And is it fulfilling because there's this blockade?
Well, I think that the blockade, we don't realize it's a blockade.
Okay.
We think of it as a safe space, right? So this is the description Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche gave for it, which is you're standing on a floor of razor blades, and to escape from that experience, you invent a beam in the ceiling. This is your idea of who you are, what your life is, and then you burrow into that fantasy beam, imagining somehow you are no longer standing on razor blades. Now the pain that you're experiencing is because of whatever's going on in that fantasy, right? So in the fantasy, the pain you're feeling is the girl didn't text you back, the job you bombed on stage, whatever it is, right? But if you notice the experience you're having, whatever the you think the cause may be, in general, the experience of suffering is identical. There's really not much difference in it. Like it's just the feeling of suck. Right. So whether I'm bored and I'm feeling the suck, or I just like got a bad email and I'm feeling the suck, the suck seems to be the same suck across the fucking board.
Yes.
Right. So that would make sense. If actually to try to rationalize the fact that you have been suffering in a kind of unrelenting way since your childhood, and when you really started trying to like be a thing, and invent a story about your life, it's easier to think, oh, this must be coming from external phenomena. You know what I mean? It's easier to imagine that because I can move. Well, if I move shit around in my life, then maybe this will end. Versus no, you have to deal with a fundamental issue, which is you are not quite what you think you are. You are not quite a thing as much as the emptiness surrounding the thing as well. You know what I mean? You're both. You're both happening. Both are happening simultaneously. It just seems like one is going to last a little bit longer than the other. You're going to die, but the emptiness that your body has been moving around in and the sum total of all things will remain. So, you know what I mean? So, which is, some of this stuff can sound very dismal or dreadful until you actually begin to start like seeing, first of all, can I experience emptiness? What happens if I shift from my attention from focusing on me and just allow myself to be the attention itself? I start identifying with the awareness versus that which the awareness is aware of.
Right.
And then it becomes really quite wonderful. And I think that's where, for a lot of people, there's a delight that starts happening, because it's like, you know, when you're lost in a cave or something,
Right.
and you see a little light somewhere far, far away, a tiny little glimpse of some kind of possibility that you might not have to be stumbling around a dark fucking cave your whole life.
Yeah, what's that cave analogy again?
Which one?
The cave, is it the Socrates?
Shadows on the wall.
Yeah.
You start thinking the shadows are real.
Right.
But you essentially, like, the idea is, once you start sitting with the thing that's bugging you, it stops being your enemy as much as you thought it was. You begin to realize it's so much more than you thought it was. Then you begin to realize there's something beautiful in it. There's a clarity in it. Like, if you ever been really sleepy and you realize I'm sleepy, but the part of me that's aware of how sleepy I am is wide awake. You know what I mean?
Right,
That's like
right.
It's a crystal clear. Oh fuck, I'm wide awake.
Right.
That part of me is not sleepy. That part of me is always.
That's
Isn't that
wild.
cool?
That's what, because I'll think this too when I have trouble going to sleep. I'll be like, I have trouble going to sleep. I'll think that in my head, and then I'll tell the voice in my head to be like, okay, go to sleep.
There you go. That's cool. You can do that. Some people can't.
That's it's something I can do when I'm having trouble. But I've noticed that I can do that since I was a kid.
That is a talent.
Where it's like, oh, I can tell I have two talents. I can do that, and I'm very good at finding free parking.
What?
Those are the two things I'm
I
great
should have
at.
picked you up
Yeah.
on the way here. Yeah, man, that is wonderful. And
Right.
that ability to do that is so good, because some people can't. They're plagued by their thoughts. They think they're their thoughts, and they get freaked out because, you know, one thing I've heard is the mind creates thoughts the way the tongue salivates.
Right.
So it's like, you don't get freaked out by how much spit or the lack of spit that's in your mouth.
No.
But if your head is full of disparate, insane thoughts, then you feel dizzy and freaked out and completely lost and like, what the fuck, man? What are all like? And then you start believing some of the thoughts and not believing others, instead of just realizing this is another form of biochemical release coming out of my body that is no more important than like my farts.
Right.
Like, imagine you have a really rotten fart, and imagine you're like, fuck, I need to get into therapy.
Oh, damn. That's a good way to look at it. You are not your thoughts in the same way that you are not your farts.
No.
It's just a mental fart, what the thought is, really.
Right. And then the same way that you are not your body.
Right. And much like your farts, it is affected by what you eat.
100%.
Yeah.
It's affected by the rotten food that you're eating every time you doom scroll late at night and like
just
find
processed
the most
foods.
wretched shit. You're feeding your brain garbage.
Right.
And of course your mind is producing intrusive, wretched, apocalyptic, terrifying thoughts, because you've been feeding it the equivalent of like dollar store vegetables. You ever go to the dollar store and see the shitty food they have there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to feel good after you eat that.
No.
So yeah, so basically, like, this is a way of gradually, for most people, very gradually, I mean, from this cosmology over like incarnations,
Right.
beginning to disidentify from
Your thoughts.
your body, your identity, the story that you've been telling yourself about who you are and why you are who you are, and why your friends are your friends, and why that guy is such a fucking asshole. And something about like a very simple familiarization with what's going on under the hood gradually produces maybe a little bit of a more relaxed attitude towards existence.
Right. And so instead of being like, I'm bored and I'm anxious, to be like, oh, what are these thoughts going on in my head? Why? Let me watch it. And then almost that becomes just sort of scrolling, or you're like, oh, what's going on in here? Why are these why is this? Why is my brain doing this? Not so much as like, I can't believe I'm thinking this.
You simplify it even more than that. Like in the type of meditation I do, it is the worst, because it's so fucking simple. It's infuriating, man. And the process is attention on your breath. So you're watching your breath.
Right.
Rest your attention on your breath. And then when you find yourself lost in your thoughts, you thinking, and return your attention to your breath. So you're not like whack-a-moling your thoughts. You sort of allow yourself to observe the thought, which is really an interesting thing to do because they're so fleeting generally. And you might notice that you have a series of thoughts that you didn't even realize were looping nonstop in your head, like a go-to for your mind.
Right, right.
And so
comfort food almost.
Comfort food.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's not like you're going thinking the way you like tell your dog to shut up or whatever.
Right.
It's thinking. You want to remind you, oh, right, I was thinking. Attention to the breath. Feelings, big feelings, little feelings. Thinking. Attention to your breath. That's it. And it is really annoying.
Yeah. I haven't meditated in a while, but I feel like every time I try, I'll be like thinking my breath, and I'll think a thought, and then I think this is just a me thing, or this might be more than just me. I'll get mad at myself for thinking, and I'll go down this sort of angry spiral of like, God, why can't this is so hard? And it just sort of, and then I'm like, it takes a while for me to calm down again, almost.
Yeah, those are called add-ons. So. Because there's like a weird, like echoey or feedback loopy quality to thinking, which is you have some thought in the space of meditation. Now you want to start doing the failure game that you do to yourself. So you're like, oh, I can't even do this. What's wrong with me? I can't even fucking meditate. I'm doing this all wrong. Like why am I? It's just thinking, attention back to the breath. Because there is what's really frustrating about meditation is that you're not getting anything out of it. You're there's nothing to get out of it, and there's the normal sort of transactional reality of like going to the gym or something.
But you could see like your muscles growing if you go to the gym.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're meditating and you're better at being in the moment and watching your thoughts, there's no way to physically actually see that or quantify that, right? So that's what you mean by there. You just like, because it feels like being able to be in the moment more is something that you're getting out of it.
Well, sure. I mean, I mean, I do think. I guess I do think that it would be ridiculous to say over time there isn't a change that's going to happen to you. But the problem is if you go into it wanting to fix yourself. This is something Bhima Chodron says. Then you start your practice off by being aggressive to yourself. Right. Because now you're going to meditate to do like what all the psychonauts are into. I annihilated my ego. I destroyed my mind. I wiped all these like very aggressive ways of talking about it. But this is not the practice that I've been taught, which is very gentle and compassionate and open. So because all that stuff is just more thinking, more attempts to be a thing, more attempts to identify as a thing. So the idea is there is something called fundamental goodness. That's what you are. That's what everyone is. Fundamentally good. Just as good as a flower, just as good as a tree, just as good as a mountain landscape, just as good as a sunset. You are when you are seeing the most beautiful sunset of your life, you are seeing your mind. That's your mind. Think how powerful your mind is. It's taking in all this sensory data, weaving a universe out of it in a moment. Color, light, sound, smell, all of it you. So you can look at a sunset and think, that's not me, and be blown away by it. That's the most beautiful sunset. If you see a sunset that maybe you don't like so much, you just won't notice it. You're not going to be like, wow, oh, God, I suck. I'm a horrible fucking sunset, right? You're like, oh, God, look at that. I'm just a failure it's perceiving sunsets. You know what I mean? Like, so, but yet with when it comes to one's own life, that's where all this aggressive shit kicks in. Instead of recognizing, like, if the world as it is beautiful, which I think it is, if color as it is perfect, which I think it is, how are you not the same?
Right,
How
because
are
you are the one perceiving it.
right?
So it's you that's really beautiful. It's you that's really perfect.
Yeah, we watch, we see pictures of supernovas
Right.
and like just maximum destruction, like black holes, fucking a star that has collapsed in on itself and is eating time space, and we look at that and we're not like, oh, what an asshole that fucking black hole is, right?
Yeah.
So where does the universe start malfunctioning? Is it with you? You know what I mean? Oh, you're the universe malfunction. So for you, you are the universe failing, huh? Like the thing that is demonstrating all this incredible stuff.
Right.
All of it great. Some of it may be out of balance, but even the imbalance is perfect in the way it manifests.
Yeah.
But you, no. You're the place in the universe where, like, if the aliens come to Earth, they're like, we just wanted to come to you because every other thing in the universe seems to be functioning perfectly except you. You're the place where the universe is malfunctioning. Come on. That's fundamental goodness. That's what you really are. But it's covered up by a story that you've been telling yourself
about who you are.
Yeah.
And what you should be and what should be happening around you.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you are happening around you.
Yeah.
So just love it.
And exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's it.
God damn, that's a very positive way to look on life.
It's a beautiful way. People are so mean to themselves, man. And I'm not saying there isn't a place in a human life for, like, the term spiritual bypass.
No.
That's when there are things you need to deal with in your life.
Right.
In relative reality. In Buddhism, there's a distinction made between relative reality and absolute reality. Relative reality is this stuff.
Right.
So absolute reality is the sum total of all things which you are part of.
Right.
Both of these things are happening simultaneously. If you get caught up in relative reality, you become a materialist.
Right.
If you or a nihilist.
Right.
If you get caught up in absolute reality, you become what's known as an eternalist.
Right.
So it's called the middle way because we're right in the middle of the damn thing.
Right.
So it's finding a space to hold both of those congruently.
Right. Damn. That's wild.
It's a beautiful.
That's a beautiful way of looking at life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just came up with it yesterday.
yeah. He figured it out, guys. He figured it out.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
I call it Buddhism. I'm thinking of calling it Buddhism.
I have a couple more questions for you,
Sure.
and I'll link it back to what we were been talking about. But you said another thing you said in the green room, and I think that a lot of people want to hear. You were telling me about how there's a good chance that we're in a simulation, like a bigger chance than we're not. What exactly does that mean? Because I've seen something online saying, I saw a tweet online that said there's a 51% chance we're in a simulation, with no explanation as to what that means.
Well, I would direct you to Nick Bostrom. He's the one who came up with simulation theory, at least I think he is. And there's a mathematical formula he came up with to kind of like quantify the. First of all, it's important to note,
right,
if our brain is parsing infinite phenomena around us,
right,
into this thing we call reality,
right,
then we are in a simulation. In the sense that
our brain is the one creating it.
Right. So the way our brain is weaving together phenomena does not then mean this is what the universe looks like. This is what it looks like going through the filter of the human brain.
Yeah, because we really truly don't know what the real universe looks like, right?
No.
Like, I see this as red, but my red could look like green to you, and you just call it red.
Yeah.
And the universal phenomenon is, well, this is actually yellow.
Right.
Right.
Audiophiles get into this shit where they're like, they try to get the technology where they can hear the music as though they were there when the music was played. Right. And so we're all kind of like tape players, I guess you could say.
Right.
And we all have different faculties when it comes to parsing phenomena. So everyone is having a different experience of reality. But yeah, you're right. Like, because the human experience of reality is just the human experience of reality.
Yeah.
Not necessarily reality
As it is.
So starting there, yes, simulation. In this case, it's a biocomputer processing, turning phenomena into time, space, and all the senses.
All the physical stuff.
Yeah. So we are already in a simulation. So now as I understand simulation theory, and again, probably wrong about this as much as I might be wrong about Buddhism.
Right.
I really mean that too, by the way. It's like if anyone listening to this ear beating, if you feel interested in Buddhism, you really need to like explore it on your own and don't take anything I say seriously, because I'm a comedian who likes to read Buddhist shit.
I've always said the mark of good advice is someone who tells you something and goes, well, I actually know nothing.
Yeah, and I mean it. Too.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I should look into this. The guy who doesn't know it means that he doesn't know it.
I would hate to distort it for anybody, because and the more I've studied it, practiced it to some sloppy degree, the more I realize how much I've misunderstood previous versions of me were completely confused regarding it. And that must mean that I'm probably still confused now. So please check out like Jack Kornfield, Sharon Salzberg, David Nichtern, Trudy Goodman. There's so many great Buddhist teachers out there that are just incredible. Simulation theory, the idea is, the logic behind it is, okay, we can predict based on processing power, based on Moore's law, where computers are going to be a year from now, what they'll be capable of.
Right.
I think maybe things are a little different now with quantum computing.
Right.
Which means shit that we thought was going to be further down the line might be sooner than we thought.
But we can, like, sort of what the lifespan will be.
Right.
Or,
like,
what the trajectory will be.
You have to, if you're developing any technology, you are developing technology that is going to work with processors that don't exist yet. But you know for sure they will in this amount of time, because there is a predictable amount of, chips you can fit on a motherboard. They keep getting smaller, more chips, more processing power. More processing power, we can do more shit. So regardless, already we are duplicating reality in a variety of ways. We're simulating weather or virtual reality. We're putting people in virtual environments. You know what I mean? Already we're pretty good at it. And if you look at the age of the Earth, the age of recorded history, the time between agrarian to industrial to technological, blah, 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 you begin to see that we've come up with this shit relative to the age of the Earth in like a moment.
Yes.
So you take that idea and then you add to it, okay, we barely even know what's in our galaxy.
Right.
Much less like outside of our galaxy.
Right.
And if I'm betting in Vegas on there being sentient, intelligent life out there,
I would bet absolutely.
I'm going to bet that.
Yeah.
So, and then assuming there isn't something built into the universe that just turns off a planet when it reaches some level of technological advancement, then there are civilizations that exist or have existed that follow the same sort of pattern we did.
Right.
And what that means is that they already created simulations that are indiscernible from reality, meaning that the odds of being in the first reality, the non-simulated reality, being in a simulated reality, it's less probable that we are in the first non-digitized, duplicated, simulated reality.
Right. Chances are this is if that is the case, then we are in a simulated reality.
We're in it, and it's telescoping in. It's as above, so below.
Right.
We are whatever our creators are. This is one the thing with AI.
So we're the AI of the previous creator, pretty much.
Exactly. Or
Right.
the AI of the AI of the
The
AI.
AI
Who
of the
knows
AI.
how
It's
many
just AI all the way down. It's like-
iterations of this shit there's been,
Right.
where the thing just echoes what the original creator was up to.
Right.
And this could all be happening in some super advanced technology where to us it seems like thousands and thousands of years have passed in recorded history, but it could be happening in a millisecond as whatever the simulation we're in is being run.
Right.
That's simulation theory, as I understand it. Nick Bostrom, check him out. He's great. He also wrote a great book called Super Intelligence, which is so good. But
Right. Damn. So in this world, let's say that we for sure 100% know that we are being run in a simulation right now.
yes,
Right. Does the idea of suffering and being bored, is that something that we feel because we're sentient and we're trying to look under, or is it something that's programmed in?
ooh, that is a wonderful question.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. I'm gonna say programmed in.
You're gonna say programmed in.
Absolutely. I'm gonna.
Okay.
It's because it's a wonderful. Like, if you want to create productive AIs,
Right.
do you really want them to be happy doing nothing? You gotta get them moving, baby. Get them moving. Come on,
God
let's go. Let's
damn.
go. Move. Make some shit.
Right.
You know, like get inspired, because if you're inspired and manically
Right.
working on some new innovation,
Right.
you know, to avoid your suffering, then that means whatever innovation that you come up with, potentially we could like harvest that and use it in our world.
Right.
You know, and especially if you're simulating infinite galaxies simultaneously with various forms of beings in them who are tool using, technologically inclined bits of code,
Right.
then, you know, it's a wonderful way to like harvest novelty. You're just like, oh fuck, Shakespeare. Holy shit, we got Titanic. Oh my God, we got nuclear weapons. Whoa, look at that. You know, if you could use all of that in the way we would.
Right.
Like if I had a super advanced Sims game,
right.
and the Sims inside that game could write books, could invent technology,
Right.
and one of them invents a thing that doesn't exist in this world, you better believe I'm taking that thing
And trying to
patenting
inventing it.
Yeah, bringing it here.
Yeah, right. But if your sim is just happy just sitting around
Meditating, oming, you motherfucker, man. What are we doing? He fucked it up. He's got these Sims. It would be a virus. You'd be like, my entire simulation got enlightened.
Damn.
They just meditate. They have picnics. They got shit. Meanwhile, your friend with his miserable Sims, he's got Elliott Smith, The Cure. He's got fucking machines of death and robot dogs.
Right.
You know, so this is why when I have thought about simulation theory in relation to meditation, I do think of like in the video games I've played, I have a friend who loves to do this. Just find the limits of the video game.
Right.
What happens if I bring my character, if I keep running in this direction?
There's a place where you just stop.
You stop.
Right.
Or you get pushed back, or it says, you've gone outside of the play boundary, return now.
Right.
So I think when you meditate, you get some version of you
like,
are outside the play boundary.
Hey, yeah, we don't need you enlightened, feel anxious so you can
get back in there, motherfucker.
Work.
Get back in there. So yeah. So which is why I think there's something weirdly revolutionary about sitting still. You know, it's a weirdly revolutionary act. It seems to be the one thing no one wants us to do. Nobody.
Yes, and it's not even like the government doesn't want you to do it. It's just the universe is like, hey.
The economy.
Yeah, the economy, everything.
Depends
everything
on us.
is like.
We're moving, baby. You got to move.
Damn.
Yeah, so sitting still, there's something in it that's like that, I think is you're exploring a boundary that really shouldn't be there. Like, I think about it a lot. Like, you know, those nature documentaries.
Yes.
You watch a wolf hunting. It's starving in the snow. It has to conserve its calories. Only go for something it knows it can eat, or it has a calorie deficit. So it seems like there would be some benefit evolutionarily for humans to be able to just sit down and be happy without needing anything. right? But
Right.
no, like we are just not. I mean, and it starts at a young age. Like trying to get my kids to sit still, forget it. Try to get kids to sit still.
Oh, it's impossible. Yeah.
We gotta move. We're making shit, knocking shit over,
Just running around
running
straight
around,
up. Yeah.
screaming,
Yeah,
yelling,
yeah.
So yeah, I think if you frame the experience of meditation as like an experience of like letting yourself feel the momentum of capitalism without succumbing to it, it becomes really interesting.
Damn. That's such a crazy thought that one of the most revolutionary things you can do is just to sit still.
That's and even more revolutionary than that would be to somehow become kind. You know what I mean? Like because that to me is where it gets real, where suddenly you stop, like your aggression dissipates a little bit. Because another, like I think, engine of what's rotten about modernity is this aggressive attitude towards life, or this feeling of having to defend yourself constantly.
And to hoard stuff and
to hoard.
Right. To hoard. That's the big part of like living in at least the current system of the world. It is just all about how much can you hoard for yourself.
Yeah. Exactly.
And how can you keep it, and how can you keep it growing, keep the pile growing.
It's very exhausting.
Yes.
And individually it is, and you look at the effect it has globally when a country decides to that it's threatened, and then because we're all connected, everyone is impacted by that, the collective versions of it. So the advice Ram Dass gave, which I think about every day, is we work on ourselves so we can help the people closest to us, meaning drop the project of trying to fix your neighbor, trying to fix your girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, kids, dad, mom. Forget it. Think about the last time some asshole was yapping spiritual advice at you. Did it do anything? The last time someone came to you and said, why don't you try 5 deep breaths a day? Did that work? No. You were like, okay, maybe, and you didn't do it. So similarly, your attempts to change other people are not working. But think about the last time you were around someone who was legitimately happy, someone who was fully there, someone who was like listening for real, someone who didn't have an agenda when they were around you, and like was just like somehow loving you without even knowing you. Maybe you've never been around a person like that, but those are the moments that have changed my life. Because you're like, what the fuck are you? You're not telling me this or that or how to do this or anything like that. You're just here. But you seem to really love people. You know, that changes people way more than what all the other stuff. I mean, that's the real. And then if you can pull that off, that means you, without having to be in a podcast giving a bad interpretation of Buddhism. you theoretically, you could just be in the world, and from that it would create a shift in people around you.
Well, the idea is, to bring it back to what you said earlier, if you are the sunset that you're experiencing, if you are the universe, well, if your thing is to be kinder, or to find that space where you're genuinely happy with yourself, that means you're doing that to the whole universe, right? Like the universe is kind of.
I never really thought of that, but yeah, man, that's right.
Right. So it's like, instead of trying to change outside, like you're trying to change someone else's behavior, but that's how you're interpreting their behavior. So it's all about you and making yourself better.
Damn, that's cool, man. Yeah, it's like I have noticed that, man. Like when a part of me that has been difficult dissolves, weirdly, I don't see that trait in other people anymore. It's like it just
Yep.
disappears from the world.
The way you imprint yourself on other people is pretty intense.
Yeah.
That I definitely do believe.
Yeah.
Where I will be like mad the jealousy is a big one. Where I'll be jealous of this person because they might have not what, and then I'm really like, no, this is the way I'm reacting and what I want, what I feel, and I don't know what this guy. I think if I have what he has, I'll be great. But he
Right.
doesn't. That person doesn't feel that way.
No.
That person's like, well, I have what I have, but I want this and I want this and I want this, and then I'm just putting myself onto them.
Right.
Whereas if I worked on myself,
Yeah.
then everything around me becomes better.
Yeah, that seems to be and it's counterintuitive because
Right.
like every other thing is like you want shit to change. You want to like paint your apartment.
Right.
You can't meditate your apartment a different color.
Right.
You know, but
Yeah.
you can't. It
No, you
doesn't
can't.
work.
It doesn't.
But with this in particular, it's like, yeah, the more you kind of open up and become less defensive, the more the world around you kind of relaxes.
Right.
It's like a dog. I've heard that before. You ever heard that before?
No.
It's the worst thing, man, when you're stoned and like you meet someone who's like has this idea they've got that telepathic fucking dog.
Right.
My dog knows if a person's good or bad.
Right.
And you're fucking high.
Right.
And you're like, he's gonna know I'm bad.
Right.
Like he for sure is gonna see some shit in me. I know he will.
Right.
And then you start getting nervous, and of course
And
the
then the
dog
dog-
is like,
the dog reacts to you.
because it's like, why is the stoner acting so weird around me?
Yeah.
I think that's the whole universe.
Right. Right. I used to say this. This kind of sort of life motto that I used to have is I used to say life is Mario Kart. So I got really good at Mario Kart in college. That's what I did. I didn't get that's
So fun.
Yeah, that's all I did. I didn't get laid. Didn't go to class. I just played Mario Kart. That's all I did.
It's a
Right.
great game.
Yeah. Yeah. But I did notice it's like because you're like a part of Mario Kart's like, oh, he hit me with that red shell. He hit me with the blue shell. I'm so unlucky. The green shell. I'm so unlucky. And what I've noticed is the better that you race, the less bad stuff really truly did happen to
There
you.
you go.
You know what I mean? Like you didn't get hit by that string of red shells and green shells because the game decided that it needed to do that to you. You got hit by it because you took that turn back there wrong.
There you go.
And that's what caused it. It's all
That's
you.
it.
So it starts a lot of like of course external stuff happens, but a lot of how the rest of the race goes, the rest of the race of your life goes, depends on how you react to it.
That's
Depends on
it.
the turns you make. Depends on the lines you take.
That's it, man. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
And it's such a joy. It's a because like, God damn it, man. It's so much easier
Mhm.
to imagine you can change someone else,
Right.
than to really work on yourself. Like, I
Right.
get why people do that,
Right.
but it's really exciting to imagine, like, if you start calming down a little bit, if you become a little more compassionate, no rush here.
Right.
We've been doing this for a long time. Then just notice. You don't notice. Well, does anything change in your world?
Right.
Things get a little different. I have noticed they do. And that's really exciting because finally there's some activity you can engage in that you truly have some like control over, which is you.
It's
you, this little
you.
swath of the universe that we've apparently been sent here to evolve.
Right. Damn. Okay. I have just one last question for
Great.
you. It has nothing to do with anything we would talk about.
Okay.
But just I heard you.
Everyone's like, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. No, I think the best part about all this is that through this, people will be like, I think I'm bored. Like, listen to this. That would be
It's
great.
so boring.
It's so boring. It's so boring just talking about like
Yeah.
the inside of yourself. But all right. So here's the last question. So I heard this is all stuff I've heard in the green room. But you said something about like you believe in reincarnation, right?
100%.
Okay. And let's just suppose that reincarnation works on a 1-to-1 basis, meaning that you're some sort of being now. When you die, you come up with some sort of being later, whether it be a flower,
Yeah.
whether it be something in another planet in a galaxy far away. Like, let's
Yeah.
just say it's 1-to-1,
Yeah.
because let's presuppose that. Do you think being human is a reward for your last life or a punishment?
Well, reward for sure.
Okay.
And again, I am coming from the Buddhist cosmology as
Okay.
I've read and it's been taught to me.
Okay.
So what's cool about Buddhism is within Buddhism, there is an acknowledgement of there being a sort of infinite array of beings in the universe.
Right.
And this gets, this stuff is coming from thousands of years ago.
Right.
So they weren't talking about aliens back then or anything like that. But
Right.
so it gets divided up into like gods and like I guess you could say demonic forces. It's a wheel.
Right.
So we're in the human realm right now.
Right.
There is the realm of the gods,
Right.
the realm of the jealous gods, the animal realm, and the hell realms. And
Okay.
so if you find what's interesting about these other realms is one commonality they have is that the possibility of like waking up, getting enlightened, diminishes in these other realms. The human experience is perfect because for discovering what you really are, because we're not like the gods who are just like the best way to think of it is like if you've ever been in LA
Right.
and you've driven up into some super wealthy area.
Right.
And you're not in LA anymore. You're in
Right.
fucking Valhalla or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
It's
right.
insane.
Right.
The shift once you get to a certain altitude. It's insane. Beautiful. Like these
Space, too.
The space and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
people and everything is groomed and not perfect. So you could say that's a way of understanding the realm of the gods.
Right.
Except take that and multiply it times 1 trillion.
Right.
So as if you reincarnate in that realm because of some like karma and the way you move through the bardo when you die, and you live much longer in those realms.
Okay.
Too. So you're not gonna have the like sand in your diaper
Right.
that the humans have, which is gonna maybe make you become sort of passionate about at least exploring whether or not you need to be suffering every day, all day long. So that's the realm of the gods. There's entropy in this cosmology. So that just isn't going to last.
Right.
And now it might be millennia that you get to whatever, fly around in your fucking cum Pegasus or whatever you're giving it to But you...
Man, cum Pegasus would be a great gamer tag.
Cum Pegasus!
That'd be a great gamer
love
tag.
it when my Pegasus comes. Gotta go jerk off my Pegasus. He won't fly. But this begins to sort of decay, and you begin to realize, oh shit, the cum Pegasus is getting old. Like it's not getting hard anymore. It doesn't come as much.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then you begin to enter into the realm of the jealous gods. Now, the way to understand jealous gods in this realm would be Jeff or Elon Musk and Zuckerberg.
Okay.
Right? Like,
Right.
Theoretically, these two people have anything you could ever want.
They shouldn't want to fight.
Right. But they're like comparing dick sizes.
Yeah.
And they're, so now these are jealous gods. They're engaged in this like battle that theoretically there's
no reason for them to be in.
No, and then we know there's billionaires all over the planet. Like right now in Bavaria, you know what I mean? There's some like billionaire who's just in a stem cell hot tub, surrounded by beautiful, happy lovers, and a pharmacist creating ketamine on demand, or I don't know. This is my fantasy.
Right. Yeah.
He's not fighting anybody. He's not like buying Twitter or like creating Facebook and fighting with people.
Right.
He's just purely enjoying life.
Yes.
So jealous gods. Then that disintegrates.
Right.
And so then that's where you start entering into the animal realm. The animal realm is defined by instinct. Animals really, the reason we don't see like poodles meditating or squirrels like...
Yeah. Or, frogs having podcasts.
It's all instinct. They're really trapped in their instinctual mechanisms. There's some animals that seem to like be able to come out of that a little bit, but they're still, whatever the line of code running a chimpanzee is, even though those things are smart as fuck, they really tend to go right back to like chimpanzee existence. They might like look at a cell phone. I've seen chimpanzees
and might have a little bit of self-recognition, but
some self-recognition.
Immediately they'll turn back.
They hear a weird sound and they're gonna like grab you. They even if they don't want to do that, they're still gonna do that. So they're dictated by instinct. Get lower, hell realms.
Mhm.
Hell realms. This is where you're in so much pain and so much suffering that you really don't have the capacity to do anything more than just suffer and be in pain and agony and things are like there's the hot hells and the cold hells. The Buddhist hells are way creepier than the Christian hells. They're way worse. And then, but again, if you want to put this in a way that isn't so like mythological,
Right.
the best way to think of it is addiction. Addiction follows this identical cycle, which
Right.
is you start off as a human, you get high, realm of the gods. Start coming down, fuck, I want to get high again. Realm of the jealous gods. Like, come down completely and you have no more dope. If you're an addict,
Right.
you're a fucking animal. If you've ever been addicted to anything, it turns you into an animal. You just are like hoarding your dope and hiding shit. And
Right.
it makes you feel like a rat. And then if you've ever seen an addict who's like successfully destroyed their lives,
Right.
they're eventually land in a place of such personal horror and suffering that they're not going to, the odds of them suddenly being like, you know what, maybe I'm going to slow down a little bit. And they're pretty slim. But then if you've ever met an addict who has been blessed enough to sober up, you see a human again. That's
Right.
a human again. So this is the cycle of addiction. So this map of samsara, it cosmologically, it
So
happens on every level.
We just keep going through this over and over again.
Right, exactly. Right.
Damn.
This is why I believe in reincarnation.
Mm.
Because like regardless of previous incarnations or future incarnations, for sure I've had different incarnations here in this realm.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, think of yourself as a toddler.
Oh, right. You're right.
Look at yourself now, or think of the last phase you were in.
Yeah,
Look at yourself now.
pre-pandemic, post-pandemic.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So I feel like that pattern probably
Up here on a
continues
larger scale.
even when you drop your body.
Damn. Well, thank you, Duncan. Hopefully we bored the shit out of some people.
It is my joy to bore you. Explore the boredom. Just listen to this over and over
Yeah,
again.
and find what's up with you that makes you
Yeah,
bored.
and if you liked it, again, go back and listen to that list of people I gave there. There's so much like Western Buddhism is really so beautiful. Like it's a wonderful thing to at least like investigate.
Hell yeah. Well, infidels, we did it. We manifested an episode, and we'll be back next week. See you later. I love you guys. Peace in the Middle East.
Hare Krishna.